I want to open the phones up on the subject of Ukraine today for military veterans and active duty. What is your view? I know active duty overwhelmingly were against aiding al-Qaeda openly or even covertly to attack Syria because these were groups that U.S. military had fought. And some of these al-Qaeda people in the BBC and others bragged that they'd killed Americans and would continue to kill Americans, but thank you for the weapons. Very arrogant scum. And our government didn't really control them. They were just arming them and turning them loose. I'm not saying there aren't radical Muslim extremists. That's a fact. The point is they're just arming them and like turning them loose like a group of piranhas or a hornet's nest you've beaten with a baseball bat to go infest some country that's done nothing like Syria and then to kill everybody. And then to use the threat of the hornets flying around to take liberties domestically. I want to hear from military about Ukraine. Where do you stand on this? Because it's a very complex issue. And I don't, again, sit there and romanticize. That's the only word to describe it, what's going on with Putin and the Russians. But they're being pushed by NATO, in my view, and that is a fact. They're being pushed by Soros and the State Department and John Kerry. And there's a destabilization program, and they're trying to do it inside Russia. And I don't think poking a grizzly bear is a good idea, especially when we have a giant 800-pound maggot, a maggot whale, defecating all over us like George Soros with all of his political detritus. Gun control, you know, destroy the family, push marijuana. I'm for decriminalization, but not marijuana culture, bombed out of your brain drug culture. Just because I don't want to fill the prisons with nonviolent offenders doesn't mean I endorse the monstrosity that is Denver now and this culture of not working and staying so stoned out of your melon that you don't even know how to tie your shoelaces. Again, all of this in moderation, ladies and gentlemen. So I want military personnel's take on that. Police, your take on it. But most importantly, because we got 20 phone lines on Sunday. We run our own system on Sunday, not weekdays, because I still do it through Genesis, and it's good backup, and they're up in Minnesota, and they're good guys. Well, they only have 6 phone lines. We have 20 phone lines. We actually have 100. We dial it down to 20. And when we open it up for a few minutes, and then we turn it back off, that's the calls that come in. I've been on national shows. We're getting 10 calls they're excited about. We could take 100 phone calls in 5 minutes. It would come in, more than 100. Maybe a minute. But the point is, please, folks, don't call if you're not military active duty or recently got out or served in Eastern Europe and have a real view on this. I'll try to go to you quickly in the next segment. Or if you've been in politics over in Eastern Europe, you're a Ukrainian or Russian, give us your view. I don't care if you disagree with me. I really want to hear what you have to say. I want to figure this out. I don't just go with one view and stick with it. I do my homework. And this is a fluid situation. But also, if you live in Ukraine, you got to call your country code in our 1-800 and use your digital phone or your audio, whatever it is, computer system. The toll-free number to join us here is 877-789-ALEX. That's 877-789-2539. Again, that's 877-789-2539. And international, we have an international line, is 512-646-1776. Now, that's a politically incorrect FCC banned number, but being sarcastic. Well, they do want to put them in newsrooms now, so I guess it isn't a joke. 512-646. Careful what you joke about, huh? May become true. Careful what you wish for. I don't wish for it. 512-646-1776. You dial your country access code, 512-646-1776. Military, active duty, or recently out, or you're there 20 years ago in Ukraine. I want your take on it, 877-789-ALEX. Please, folks, we need this intel and to have this college of discussion. Don't call if it's not on that subject, because we don't really screen your calls. I want to discuss how you're really Jeff Bridges and how I'm schizophrenic. No, we're not going to have you on right now. This is time for grown-ups, ladies and gentlemen. I had somebody on the street like 2 weeks ago. Hey, Jeff. I didn't. Come on, Alex. You know you're really Jeff Bridges. I turned around. The person really thought I was Jeff Bridges. I didn't know that was a whole other internet conspiracy. I'm Bill Hicks and Jeff Bridges. Folks, you didn't know that I'm actually really the guy that does House of Cards, or what's that show called? House of Cards. I'm really Kevin Spacey, ladies and gentlemen. I look more like Kevin Spacey, who I'm a fan of, even though I can't remember his name, than I am of Bill Hicks or Jeff Bridges. So I want to start that conspiracy. That's pretty cool. I'm actually Kevin Spacey. They're going to pick up on that and believe it. See, that's the problem. The mainstream media has lost all credibility. And so now there's a vacuum, and the public doesn't believe anything. They don't even believe me 3 days before the mainstream news reported it, that the Russians started moving into eastern Ukraine, even though it was confirmed, and they passed it in the Duma 2 days ago. That's the government in Russia. They don't even believe Russia exists. 1 in 4 Americans doesn't even know the planet orbits the sun. We can go out and get 9 out of 10 Austinites at UT with degrees going, I'm a chemist. And should we ban dihydrogen monoxide for Obama? For Obama, anything, Obama, Obama. And we actually have that video where they called to ban dihydrogen monoxide. They called to ban water. Mark Dice has done it out in L.A. Penn and Teller did it before. They said, for the Earth, we're going to ban dihydrogen monoxide and sodium chloride. That's salt. Dihydrogen monoxide is water. So I want to hear from military, Russian, U.S., Ukrainian, NATO. This is your chance. International line, 512-646-1776. That is, to tyrants, that's profanity on air. 1776, 1776. I have like Tourette syndrome. Liberty, freedom, private property, family, Second Amendment, self-defense, John Wayne. Oh, man, the profanity that is coming out. Men are men, women are women, fast cars, high horsepower. I heard Ferrari's coming out with a hybrid vehicle. That is blasphemy. I think that new BMW that looks so awesome, but then I heard it's hybrid. I mean, I won't even look at it now. It's like because it doesn't even work. I mean, these electric cars come from coal power that you guys say is so evil, and then it's an electric car with gasoline. Kind of freaks me out when a car, you go to a red light, it stops idling. That's kind of satanic, folks. That's like throwing crucifix in you-know-what, like in that federally funded artwork or something. I mean, you want to get into blasphemy, folks? All right, seriously, I'm going to get serious here. We're going to take your phone calls, and then coming up, record cold hitting the entire United States. The answer is pay Al Gore more money, because he said we'd be in record heat and total ice caps melted. That's not true, but so what? They control reality. White House-connected, George Soros-connected groups have come out, Media Matters, and also Raw Story, and said we have no AM and FM affiliates. We're internet only. That's why they're talking about us. And it doesn't matter if that's not true on record. They control reality. So if they said the Earth's made of cheese, or if George Soros actually fought the Nazis as a young man, did you know that? He wasn't a collaborator on record, he admits on 60 Minutes. He actually killed Hitler. George Soros, as a 15-year-old, went into the bunker and killed Hitler. Raw Story said so. Symbols are powerful, and the globalists have hijacked the symbols of America. They've turned them into their own symbols. Well, we are restoring the idea of the true republic, not the counterfeit globalist empire, by promoting the icon George Washington and others. That's why we're rolling out an 100% made in America line of incredible pro-liberty apparel. We are repopularizing liberty. We are helping fellow Americans rediscover what made this country great. We are the spirit of 1776. We are 1776 worldwide. We are all brothers and sisters in arms in the animating contest of liberty in the long march towards humanity's ultimate destiny of freedom. Visit madein1776.com today and vote with your dollars to promote truly made in America, high-quality products, and promote the ideals of liberty. But let's go to your phone calls. We got Bubba, Paul, Jeremy, John, Pam, James, you name it. Got a lot of callers calling about other stuff. We're talking about the Ukraine that could be the trigger for World War III. What is your view? Former, current military, police, folks in Europe. I can usually give the number out in Australia or in Egypt and get some calls on an issue. I don't see anybody from Ukraine. I got Canada, Illinois, which is kind of like the Soviet Union. So I guess from kind of like 1982 from the Soviet Union. Illinois is a great state, but it's kind of run by the Soviet Union. From another dimension, we got Virginia, Texas, Arkansas, Texas. Again, we got an international line, folks, or you can call the regular number, 877-789-2539. I want to hear from Ukraine or Russia, you name it. Anybody over there in Eastern Europe or into the Caucasus or into the whole Rus area, 877-789-ALEX. Right now, let's go to Bubba in Virginia. He served 10 years in Germany. Then we got active military. Paul in Texas wants to comment on Ukraine. What's your take on this, Bubba?
Yeah, Like I said, I was over in Germany for quite some time, starting back around 2000s, 2001s. They actually started having different meetings for how we're going to put bases over in different parts of what used to be former Eastern Europe, or former Eastern Soviet Union there.
Which is provocative.
Right, exactly. So we're putting places. We got ASGs actually looking at putting area support groups equivalent to over in Poland. I know some guys have gone over there and looked at some stuff. Kosovo, Yugoslavia, places like that. So yeah, we're basically, we're fringing right on the borders.
Encircling Russia. Yes, that's the public plan, exactly, is to bring Russia down by the White House. Yes.
Exactly. And then the whole thing going on with Ukraine, just from things I've seen and read in history books and everything, to me this seems somewhat similar to when Kermit Roosevelt was over in Iran. They got provocateurs in there. They go in there with a bunch of money, but basically you use Bechtel and other corporations like that, and George Soros corporations. They go in there and they pay a bunch of hooligans to start riots and carry on. And they don't want to join the EU, I can guarantee you that. Because I can tell you, when I went to places like Czechoslovakia and stuff, they would rather take my dollars, or they'd take krone over euros. They do not want euros. They don't want anything to do with the euros because it's bad news. It's going to crash. And it's going to bring down their economy. So those people in the Ukraine that are wanting to go with the EU and become part of the EU, I'm telling you, they better look out because they're tying their own hands loose.
Well, very sophisticated points you make that the majority of Ukrainians, they voted it down in elections, do not want to join the EU and be saddled with debt and enslaved. I mean, that's like wanting to join with leukemia or wanting to join with syphilis. I mean, it's not a good deal. And so they just activate a bunch of thugs to blow stuff up. The government stands down. They take over. That gives the Russians a vacuum to come in. The word is they stood down to the Western powers, by some of our sources. The government did, who's pro-Russia, so Russia would have an excuse to come in. And that may actually be the double, triple cross in all this, and that's why it's such a mess. The problem is, historically, the Russians will not back down. And so people like nuclear war, get ready for it. I appreciate your call. It's not like we're led by like Eisenhower or something or Ronald Reagan, folks. It's Barack Obama who's busy raising old ladies' insurance prices. I mean, it's just a sickening situation. Paul in Texas, active duty military. What is your take on all this, Paul?
Hey, Alex, a lot of things going on. Basically, a couple of points and just something to think about. Last week, our president said that he was going to shrink the military to the smallest size that it's been since World War II. Next thing you know, Russia has decided that they would make an end run down through to the Crimea, to their deep water port at Sebastopol. That's where they keep all their carrier operations are out of that base.
They don't have a choice. I mean, isn't it like when the commies took over Cuba, the U.S. seized Guantanamo because their ships were there?
Oh, absolutely. The interesting part of this is that entire corridor that they came down through to Sebastopol, all those folks speak Russian. They're pro-Russian anyway, so it's not even a big deal to those guys. The Ukrainians are in on the western part of the country where they actually speak Ukrainian, and that's where all the
sure. And AP and Reuters is saying Russia invaded Ukraine. No, they didn't. They secured their military bases. And I'm not saying I'm not judging that. It's just a fact. They secured the Russian-held area and their military bases.
On the economic side, most of the natural gas that Europe uses runs through the pipelines that run through the Crimea.
That's right.
And the next place they need to be very careful of is Moldova, because the remainder of the pipelines run through there.
Very well said. Where do you think this is all going?
Well, I think Putin takes a lot of pleasure in punking our president, and he's doing a real good job at that.
Well, they just keep thinking everybody's going to bend over, and the Russians aren't going to do it. Good point. Folks, you hear I want to talk to active duty and military. They know the ports. They know the names. They've done all the research. I've done it too, but it's just good to hear it. The average American doesn't know the Earth orbits the sun, folks. The average American will ban water in a poll if they say it's for Obama. The average American will vote to have their power plant shut down and have their prices doubled. The average American would vote to have their head chopped off if it was trendy. But I talk to the military, they always know what's going on. Oh, I love it. Ugh. I didn't used to just gush about the military, but they always say, oh, military intelligence, what an oxymoron. I've learned more from military, regular enlisted people and non-commissioned officers and officers than I would ever learn from the establishment professors. And I'm not talking about all professors, like if they're in law or in electrical engineering or something. The general, though, you know, political professors are a bunch of joke hacks that don't know what planet they're living on. And me personally, I'm living in the 21st century in a real risk game. It's incredibly exciting. I'm not into football because I'm learning all the real players in the world and finance and banking and regions and what's happening in Nigeria and the Muslims in the north and what's happening in Transylvania and Romania and Bulgaria and what's going on in southern Mexico and what's happening in Japan right now. We're talking to former, current military folks over in Ukraine, you name it, about what they think about the situation. I know it's not as important about a bunch of Botox, egomaniac people in their Hollywood that's going bankrupt, L.A. that's collapsing, in the mayor's own words situation. And not that I don't like some of the movies, but give me a break. I'll choose what I like. I'm going to sit there and watch them all in their big narcissistic event. Let's go to James in Arkansas. Next caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hello, Alex.
Hey, you say you're a military veteran, spent a lot of time in Ukraine. What's your take on this?
Yeah, thanks for not being a sellout and telling the truth about what's going on over there.
I'm trying my best. I've studied it, but I still don't want to be overconfident because it's complex. What is your take?
Yeah, I spent pretty much 05, 06, 07 over there in Kyiv, Odessa, Nikolaev, Sevastopol, Zaporozhye, Kharkov. Most of Ukrainians, I don't believe they want to join the EU.
Well, they voted against it openly, yes.
Yeah,
So George Soros is showing them now.
That's right. They're used to more freedoms and liberties than what we usually have here. They're not going to like joining up with the EU. I think there are most of them are on the side of Russia there, I would have to say. Now, in the western part near Poland, there are, Nazi sympathizers. Oh, don't speak Russian, speak Ukrainian. And Hitler was a good guy. Too bad he didn't win.
Oh, no. The deputy prime minister is literally photos of him heiling Hitler with images of women with blonde hair shooting electricity out of their hands. I mean, wow, I've never seen fascist iconography like that. I mean, they're really taking the cake now.
Yeah, I hear you.
But I guess George Soros is coming home. I mean, he was a top Nazi sympathizer in his area of, what was it, Romania.
Yeah, I sure hope they don't, the EU don't mess around or the West too much over there anymore. I would like to move
Well,
over there.
Napoleon and Hitler messed around with Russia, and you know how that ended up.
Yeah. My wife, she's from Peru, and she can't wait to go visit over there with me.
Well, I hear and I see the women and the culture of Ukraine are very, very nice-looking ladies. And I hear they're very feminine, and, of course, that's politically incorrect. But don't worry, the EU will put stuff in their water to make the women look like men and the men look like women. So they'll get the Ukrainians. They'll get the 5-year-olds wearing dresses and saluting Obama when they're done.
Yeah, I hope not. Very healthy over there. I can meet up with other Americans and believe how old they are, 45 or 60, and they look like they're 25 or
I have
30.
talked to businessmen that go anywhere in Eastern Europe where they're off the GMO and stuff. They go, man, I smoked cigarettes, drank, ate like a pig, lost 40 pounds. Like the French are just eating like pigs, smoking, having sex 8 times a day, live longer, less cancer because there's no GMO, folks. I mean, they live like pigs, and they live longer than us. When my dad was growing up, it was chicken fried steaks, total stuff constantly, and there was no issues with weight. I'm telling you, GMO in rats makes them big and fat. I appreciate your call. God bless you. What an evil American. He loves freedom. Jeremy in Illinois, you're on the air. Go ahead. What's your take on the situation in Ukraine?
Yeah, hello, this is Jeremy. Oh, yeah,
Yeah, we know. We announced you're Jeremy. Go ahead. Are you former military?
No, I'm not.
I don't mean to be rude to you. Have you been to Ukraine?
No, I've never been to Ukraine.
But see, I don't screen the calls. I said former military that's been over there, or active duty, or people in Ukraine or Russia. We want that intel. You got 30 seconds. Make your point.
Yeah, there's a global banker that's in charge of Ukraine now.
That's right. They put an IMF banker in there. That's right. Good point.
Yeah, and now the Russia has sent a military vessel down to Cuba, and I wonder if they're listening into tapping into America. I wonder.
Oh, I think they're paying attention. Yes, and they've got their own issues. I'm not again saying they're a bunch of angels. It's just that it's all. And I'm trying to be mean to you, Jeremy. It's just we're talking to. Look, I haven't gotten one, and usually I can do this. This is very upsetting. If I kept this for a few days, the lines would be loaded with it. I want calls from Ukraine. I know most of the phones aren't working there, I've been told in some areas. Or Russia, or Poland, or Germany. What is your take in Europe on this? We'll open the phones completely up. Okay? 877-789-ALEX. Dial your country code and use that, or the international line. Your country code, access code, 512-646-1776. 512-646-1776. I want your take over there on this. John in Michigan, former military with Ukraine experience. Go ahead, John.
Alex, hey.
Go ahead.
I know a lot about the history of Ukraine, and I personally think this is an imperial policy going back 200 years by the British Empire. You know, they have this constant encroachment upon Russia, and it's telling because, I mean, the economic situation in the transatlantic region right now, I personally think it's going to blow out, and it's going to make, like, Lehman Brothers look like a joke, you know, and its potential disintegration of incomplete Europe financial system, U.S. financial system. Then you're confronted with a completely different dynamic in the Asian world where China, Korea, India, Russia, they're all progressing, you know? So what comes into play is the old geopolitical impulse of the British Empire to say, you know, we can't tolerate Asian countries basically advancing or developing. They'd rather risk total destruction, you know,
and by the way, what you're saying is Brzezinski's own policy, and it doesn't mean we progress either. It's not even the British that are doing it. The British Empire model of balkanization, Royal Commission, 1949, bankrupt everyone but the elite to control us, is Agenda 21, is the neo-fascist fake liberal agenda that is being carried out in the name of liberalism. Absolutely right. They want to stop everyone's progress. You have hit the nail on the head. Go ahead.
You know, what really makes a dangerous situation here is the geographical position of Ukraine. It reaches deep into the former Soviet territories, you know, and various points in history, Ukraine has, you know, been part of Russia. You know, Kiev was actually the capital of Russia at one time.
That's right.
And not until their independence in the early 90s. Yeah, and Ukraine's border is only 480 kilometers from Moscow. I mean, that's like the distance between San Francisco and L.A. I mean,
yeah, no, the Russians in the last 400 years have had countless wars in that area with everybody trying to take them over. So this is like a football field they've been on constantly. And they know they're letting them get up to their 1 yard line, NATO and George Soros, who wants to, you know, sterilize every Russian child there is, basically. That's the agenda. So they're right up to their border. I'm not romanticizing the Russian government, but at least they're not genocidal against their own people. Putin pays Russians to have kids. It's unbelievable. God bless you. Another great caller. I just can't believe how smart these callers are today.
You are watching the best of the Alex Jones Show, weekdays from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central. Watch live at Infowars.com/show or become a member of InfoWarsNews.com and help us take resistance to the next level.